Awesome. All right, friends, welcome to our guest speaker for the month of May, Sarah McCann. She's here. She is a member of Fit Club and a good friend and just an overall inspiration to many, many people. And so I wanted to come and have her join us this month because with our theme this month, which is the May Miles Challenge, I knew that her testimony and her story just really fit right in with what we are all working on right now. So definitely wanted to have her on. So excited that she's taking the time to come and talk with us. Super casual. We're going to share her story, go through some of the things that she learned on her journey, and then just really wrap it up with some inspiration. So, Sarah, we'll start with you. Tell us about you, what you do, what your day looks like, who you are, your family, where you live, all the things.
Have to say, trying to write down and think about who I am, it's always one of those like, how do you start? What makes the most sense? But thank you for having me, Beck. I appreciate that. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm a full-time SLP in the schools. I have 2 golden retrievers and then a cat. So I've hidden myself down here in the basement, and the cat is the only one who is coming and harassing me currently. So my husband is a first responder, and then I have 3 high school almost age kiddos, a 17, 15, and 13-year-old. And then I'm a school-based speech therapist that I work every day. Schedule is about 8:30 to 4 o'clock or so, and then turn around and change the hat, so to speak. So
Yeah. So the one of the cool things is your story relates to so many people in our community, right? Busy, pouring into other people, running a full time, job plus side quests as well. And that's why really wanted to share your story because I feel like sometimes when we look at people who are in other seasons, you're like, oh, it's easier for them because they stay at home, or it's easier for them because they're an empty nester, or it's easier for them because they I don't know, have older kids, have younger kids, have family nearby, all the things, right? So I think sometimes there is power in hearing someone's story that's similar to ours, but even if they're not, like I know we have women in our group who are in totally different seasons, we can all learn from each other, right? The people who have gone before us, the people that are coming up the path, I don't say behind us, but they're in a different season. I love it. So I'm so excited that you're here. Tell me about your fitness journey, because I know you've been doing fitness for a long time,
mhm.
but how that's kind of played into, like, if you've always been active, did you play sports when you were younger? I know your kiddos do sports as well, right?
Mhm. Yep. So I grew up as a dancer. So I'm 43, and we'll kind of talk about why that number was, or 44, why that number is important in a little bit. But I was always a dancer. So I danced through high school and then into college. And then once I hit grad school, there wasn't time for it. But I always envisioned myself as I wanted my kids, my future children, to know that I was a dancer. And that was a huge passion for me, and performer, so to speak, with the dance in that background. It sort of morphed a little bit. I did do field hockey for 2 seasons, um, because everyone was sort of joining some sort of sport at that point in high school. And I was like, oh, field hockey looks really fun. And I loved it, but I hurt my knee. I ended up hurting it my sophomore year. Running never came easily to me because it was always, well, if you danced, you couldn't, do the other kind of fitness. And
Mm-hmm.
now I think that everything has changed so drastically, but back then, it wasn't that long ago, but I think that thought was, well, if you danced, you were a dancer. You couldn't do additional things, because it kind of took away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for me, I danced, and then once I hit grad school, there wasn't time for it. So I switched into the exercise videos, Pilates and yoga, and those things felt natural to me. It was the dance and the choreography and the music and the movement. So yes, it's always been something that I wanted to do. It really took until having the kids and wanting to run a 5K that sort of launched a little bit more of that fitness journey,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. Um, my dad passed from something called multiple myeloma. And at that point, they were starting to do like walks and runs and different causes. I always had this, oh, wow, running a 5K would just be so cool. It'd be so amazing. And it seems so in the
Big.
distance, not
Yeah.
something that I've ever done. And I started with a couch to 5K and surprised myself with it, was able to then, sort of stop doing that. And it's like, well, let's just see if I can run a mile. Let's just see if I can. The kids were little, so it meant that they were all in daycare. I would bring my stuff to school. I would run around a field at school, like a big baseball field, and run around it for 25 minutes. I would have filled into myself, and then I would go pick up the kids. And
That's awesome. I love that so much. Yeah.
so that's how it sort of all started. Um, and yes, now the kids are runners. So I have two who are on cross country. And as my eighth grade daughter is kind of switching into high school, that's her. Well, I guess I could. It looks like the boys are having fun with it. And so
Isn't
it's
that so
exciting
funny?
to
First
see
of all,
that.
I love the fact that you fit it in and you're like, hey, I didn't have an hour, so I got 25 minutes, right? It's not fancy. I'm putting on some shoes and I'm running around the field. I love that because I think that's something we all can remember is that it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be long, but showing up for yourself is always going to make you a better version of you, for your spouse, for your kids, for your community. Like, I love that so much. So thank you so much for sharing that because I think, we do have moms, I say young moms, but moms with littles, that it's hard. Like I remember trying to take my kiddos to the gym and like getting called because they're crying and like I just want to work out. And that's really when I started building a home gym because I was like I didn't have a choice. Like they just couldn't make it through the daycare. So I love that. I love that you shared that because I think, like I said, all these stories are going to relate to someone and inspire someone. So you were running, you're walking, you're active. Tell me about the whole reason that we have you on this call today. Not the whole reason, because you have so much inspiration, but the reason I think you're perfect for this month specifically was your 43-mile challenge. So tell me, how did that happen? What it was for people who have no clue what we're talking about. Yeah, give us the background.
Yeah, I feel like it's always like the super random thing because what does 43 have to do with anything? And it started with, I was watching, like, you done the 75-day hard, and I was watching everyone do these like challenges, so to speak. And it started, I would say, actually well beforehand, like that challenge of wanting to run the 5K, then training for a little bit longer distance running and some of those things. But when I hit 40, randomly, I was like, oh, let's count backwards. So my birthday is April 7th, and I did, leading up to my 40th birthday, 40 days of consecutive days of exercising.
I love that.
I don't know if I did anything for 41, but by 42, I was like, I'm going to run 42 miles. Cause usually so I'm in New England. I don't know if you can tell with my accent or not. But I'm in New England. So by April-ish, the weather's at least a little bit better. So it's not icy. It's not snowy. It's not, all the sand
Mm-hmm.
isn't on the roads and some of those things. So I'm a runner by the weather. So I
Right.
don't use the treadmill. We don't have a treadmill here. I don't go to a gym. So anything that I do is outside based on the weather. So 42 came around and I was like, I'll run 42 miles. I got halfway through and I was like, this is just not my body type. My body type is not one to run from 0 to 42 miles. So I abandoned it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it. I didn't complete it. And I was like, all right, well, we'll try again. So 43 came around and I said, well, running didn't work, but I bet I could walk, or I bet I can log 43 miles. So even
Mm-hmm.
if it's not running, it's walking or it's movement of 43 miles. So that was how it sort of all came about. So
But
I
you didn't
started,
just do 43 miles total. You did 44 miles every single month, right? So yeah,
so
share
that,
that part because that to
yeah,
me is like next level. To commit to something, a goal is huge. To commit to a goal that lasts a whole year, there's just got to be a statistic somewhere, but the percentage of people that would actually complete that, I would guess, would be single digit percentages. Because truth be told, we as humanity oftentimes stuck at keeping promises to ourselves,
mhm,
especially for long-term goals. Like, yeah, 43 miles, I think a lot of people could do that. 43 miles for 12 consecutive months, that's huge. That's why I think it's such a cool accomplishment. Um, So was that like, okay, I'm going to level it up. I'm not just going to do 43. Like, how did the monthly part come in?
Yeah, so it was just I'm going to do April. I'm going to do 43 miles in April. And I think it ties back into I ended up loving it because my oldest wasn't driving yet. So I was having to go pick him up from track practice every single day. Then he had track meets on Tuesdays, which are like hours long. So you're
Mm-hmm.
at the track. The other two often wouldn't come with me. So then I was in that I'm here. I would walk and do whatever. So that was how it sort of started. And as a school teacher, being in the schools, April, May, and June are like bananas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it got for me, it was if I can't then be in two different places and then feel like I can even do 20 minutes extra when I come home, at least I've walked, at least I've exercised. So it then kind of rolled into, well, May is a similar schedule like April. So halfway through May, I realized that I was enjoying the walking. I had a few set paths and patterns that I would do from my house.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would walk with the dogs and we would do a loop around the neighborhood for them. The kids might come with me. And I think the kids started to get used to mom's going out for a walk, or I need 20 minutes and I'll be back and then I'll start dinner, or I need 20 minutes from school. So it just kind of rolled. It just all of a sudden, halfway through May, I was like, I bet I could do this.
Mm-hmm.
So then it came into, all right, well, in May, I did 23 miles. I wonder if I can do that longer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it sort of snowballed very naturally. Um, June, then we're
And
done
then
with
once you've
school.
done a couple months, you're like, well, shoot, if I can do it, and if I can do it during the honestly the craziness of the end of the
Mhm.
school year, summertime almost probably felt like a breeze, right? The weather's great,
Yep.
but then you're coming to the beginning of the school year, then you're coming
Mhm.
out to winter. And
Mhm.
so tell us a little bit about like, some of the challenges, even weather wise or timing wise, did you have to try to get, because 43 miles is more than a mile a day. It's not quite two, right? But if you did you have it pre-planned? Did you try to walk more on the weekends? Like what was kind of the planning? Because once you're committed, you're like, I'm going to hit this goal
Yep.
with weather and all the things.
So my first, not stumbling block, but the first like challenge or kind of push was in July, and we went to Ireland, but for 10 days.
Hmm.
So I
Which is
knew we were going.
amazing, first of all.
It was so much fun, and it was so great. And I knew I would be walking there, but it wasn't going to be like steps. It wasn't like mileage, but I knew I was going to be walking, but I couldn't factor that in, so to speak.
Hmm.
So I used Runkeeper and I did it wasn't steps, it was specific miles.
Hmm.
Um, so I used Runkeeper, and in July, I was like, shoot, yes, we might have 31 days. However, 10 of those I'm going to be gone.
Right.
So I would look at the month and I started with, well, how many miles a week would I have to walk? If I, back that up, how many miles a day would I have to walk? And then, yes, if the weather didn't work, then I knew I didn't do my 1 point whatever that day, then I had to do more. But honestly, there were days that I would walk. I think my loop was about 2.85 by
Hmm.
the time I was getting used to it. And I could do that in, I don't know, under 40 minutes, like 30 something, minutes. So in July, I just timed it and I hit the 31 miles before we even left.
Nice. Yeah. Which I just think goes to pre-planning, right? Everything is adaptable, everything is adjustable, but sometimes it takes that mental space to go like, so I've shared that my goal for 2025 is 15,000 steps a day average. 2024, I was like at like a little bit under 11,000. So that's a big push for me. And when you really think about it, that's every day of 365. But some days, like on the weekend, I might have 18, 19,000 steps. And some days, like on a Monday where I'm sitting on my computer, I might have 12. And so it's like, it's that average, right? So it's like the math will work it out, but sometimes like the planning piece.
Mhm.
And like, you're like, I'm not going to fail. So I'm going to make sure that it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally love that. And then tell me a little bit about weather wise. If it was really bad, did you just add it onto a different day? Did you bundle up? Because I mean, it's cold there where you are.
Um, so I think I got to about 6 months in and realized how much fun I was having with it. It was a great challenge. It was something that I was doing consistently, and I've added in other things. I've been doing the Fit Club now for the past month or two, I guess, 2 months now. But I've done other things like all your challenges and some of my own things with weights. But yes, weather was not enjoyable. I wouldn't walk if it was pouring and miserable, but I did
Hmm.
walk in the winter in the snow. I walked a little bit in the ice, but if it was icy, then I went to the field.
Hmm.
And did pre-plan, so I would drive and then walked in the field, and there are some trails, so I would walk those. And yeah, it did. It took a lot of planning. There are a few months there that, like December and November, that I walked around the gym.
Mm.
Um, and I would just turn on the run keeper and log it, or I'd walk around the school. So there are many times I also, um, accountability, had a friend or two that we would meet up, and she has little kids, and I would say, all right, I'm going to go for a walk around the school. And she would come with me, and she'd say, I have 20 minutes. I'd be like, all right, great. Let's do it.
Hmm.
Um, so, yep, I got invested in lots of good
Yeah.
winter gear,
I'm
fleece
telling
line
you, it
lace.
makes such a big difference because we have huskies we have to walk every day. And in the winter, so it used to be one of my kiddos sold, she just did it. Like she loved doing it. And then she's kind of like, I kind of don't want to do this anymore every single day. So I have the hat, I
Yeah.
wear a mask sometimes because
Yep.
it's like, but with the right gear, anything is possible, right? Like all you really need for walking is a good pair of shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need a coat and and
Mm-hmm.
some good gloves, but
Mm-hmm.
I just love that. Okay, so um what surprised you the most about this whole journney? And one, you've accomplished it, which is fantastic and awesome. And I think again, just such a testimony to your discipline, because I don't know who very many people who could do it or would do it. But was there anything that surprised you, like big takeaways?
I think how much fun I had. I don't, I think at the beginning I started as just this random number, and I wanted to try it and see what I could do with it. And then once it started to roll, I realized how much I was enjoying being out of the house, having a purpose to being out of the house. My classroom is down in the basement, very much like this. So there's not the basement of a school. So there are no windows, literally. So I'm in that environment six
Yeah.
hours of my day, more or less. The nature, being outside, the true like grounding piece,
Hmm.
being with friends or with the family when they would want to come with me. But honestly, it was just in a time for me, almost like meditative walking was, I
Hmm.
think, how it turned into. I could put on an audible and listen to the story. And there are many times that because of the book that I was listening to, I wanted to go on the walk because I wanted the
Hmm.
hour of undivided time just to listen to the story that I was listening to. So I think some of those pieces,
Yeah.
I've paused, and I'll go back to it probably soon because I am finding that I miss it.
Hmm.
But there are many times that I got to that, like, oh, I don't want to do it today. I just don't want to do it. But I was like, you've done it this far. And it was
Hmm.
like, get through November when the time changes and it's dark by 4 o'clock. Um, my husband purchased, I don't know if you've seen it, these crazy vests that go on. It's like,
Uh-huh.
I can send you guys the link, but it looks like Iron Man. So it goes over
Oh, okay.
and it's bright and so
Yeah.
bold. And I had a big light right on my chest.
Yeah, because you have to be careful, not even just weather, but being like going in the dark, right? And then like pedestrians get hit all the time, or there's like
Mhm,
like we have animals where we live. I
mhm.
didn't even think of that, like safety precautions as well, for
Yep.
sure. Yeah, that's good. That's a good reminder too.
Mhm.
And I also loved how when you said with your kids, you're like, okay, they caught on, like, okay, this is mom's time. I'll be back in 20 minutes. And how many times we as women and as moms often will be like, oh, well, let me just get dinner started first and then I'll walk. And you were like, no, no, no. I'm going to go do my walk, 25 minutes. I'll be back. And guess what? They didn't starve. They survived,
No.
you
Yeah.
know? But we often will do the opposite. We'll put little, again, put on the life preserver on the kiddo first, and then we're end up drowning. And so I just think that's such a good reminder for the example that you set for them, that we have to take care of ourselves. It's not selfish, right?
Right.
But and I think it also shows them the prioritizing getting outside, getting in nature. One of the things I just read in a book this week was about the importance of being outside more often. Because if you think about it, as a side note, the light bulb was only invented like 200 years ago. So this much unnatural light is not natural to our physique, our body, our rhythms. Yeah, obviously we had candles and oil lamps and things like that, but it was totally different. And so
Mhm.
she's talking about you need real light, not even filtered by windows. Right? I love windows, but outside as
Mhm.
much as you can. That you think that
Right.
was 43 hours that you're outside for the most part.
Yeah.
That's a huge mental health game changer as well, right? Even if you're not walking, you're just getting outside. So I think there's just so many like unexpected consequences that I just think are just beautiful and like you said, enjoyable. And you're like, wow, this doesn't feel like a chore. Although sometimes, like you said, I got to push myself out the door, but you
Yeah.
always feel better afterwards, right? Um, so I love that. I love that. Did you have, you mentioned having accountability with, some friends, you're obviously you're sharing it on social. What really, accountability helped you keep going besides like, even though you're like, oh, I've made it this far, but there's a lot of people that could say I made it this far and like, I did okay. And they just give up, right? Like what kept
Mhm.
you going? Was it accountability? Was it the goal? Was it sheer grit?
I don't know if there's one thing. I think it was probably my stubbornness a little bit that I had done it. I did it 1 month and I was like, all right, well, you did it all summer. And now let's see if we can get through the initial first chunk of school. Well, if you've made it into this point and if you can make it through November, which I figured was the biggest first hurdle,
Mm-hmm.
with the time change, then it's like, well, now you've done like 6 months or, it just kind of
Right.
kept snowballing. Um, and I got into March and hit it and was like, all right, I'm done. And I think I remember writing you to say like, all right, so now I've done it, but does it finish like at my birthday or do I have to do it through all of April? Like, when does this
Right. Yeah,
end?
we're trying to think like what is actually 12 months? Like if I'm doing it for a year, is it the beginning of the month? Is it the end of the month? Like, well, it's 12 months. If you did it in April, then it would
Yeah.
end at the end of March, right? Yeah. After it was done, were you kind of like, oh, obviously super proud, but also
Yeah.
like, okay, like what's next?
I'm
Like
like, now
what
I'm done.
what do I
Now,
focus on now? I mean, I'm sure some of this became just natural habits that you still go walk now. Maybe you're
yeah.
not hitting a specific goal, but walking is part of your rhythm, even if it's not every single day. So what is next? Have you come up with a new goal? Did you take some time? Because this ended what the end of March. Now we're in May, so what 6 weeks or
Mhm.
so past the end of you're hitting your goal. What are you working on now? Or I think you said you might go back to it.
I might go back to it. I miss the consistency and you start to know the neighbors and the neighborhood and some of those things.
Hmm.
So I do miss it a little bit, and I miss that. Oh, I can walk 3 miles without it being a problem, or do a bigger loop and do 5 miles. So I took a pause for sure because my body was tired and I
Hmm.
needed to just kind of change it up a little bit and
Yeah,
see what
yeah.
else. So in May, I did a yoga outreach um, class, and that was 2 or 3 back to back yoga classes, which was a lot of fun. Um, I may run the Falmouth Road Race, which is a 7 mile in August. I've done it every other year, so this will be probably my fourth or fifth, I think.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah, yeah. Or you just never know. Like this kind of happened on a whim, right? You're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
maybe I should try this." And so you just never know. Something might pop into your brain and you're like, oh, this is my next thing. Um,
Hmm.
so I love it. All right. What advice would you give to someone who wants to set a goal? Maybe they don't want to do a year long goal or this goal. but you're obviously good at setting goals, right? You've done this one, you've done challenges, you've done, couch to 5K, all the things. And obviously you're in the school system, you're raising up the next generation of, little people. Goal setting. What would you tell someone who's like, I want to do something that challenges me? What advice would you give, especially as a busy mom who's doing all the things?
I think it should be something, that's small and achievable and attainable for you. So whether it's taking 5 minutes a day to meditate, make it something that you have enough buy-in to, that you want to do it, and that's motivating to you, that you can set aside that time. I think that's probably the most important, to pick something
Mm-hmm.
that fits all of those criteria. And then it's that executive functioning piece, right? So you have to have, top down, or think about the triangle. So you have your goal either on the top or on the bottom, and what are the steps to get there?
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I wanted to walk 43 miles. So what did that mean? I didn't do it when I wanted to run it. How do I do it now?
Mm-hmm.
Again, making those small habit changes so that you can have it be sustainable and maintain it.
Yeah. Because it's not that it wasn't challenging. It was still
Right.
challenging. It wasn't like it was just an easy goal. Like my goal is that I'm gonna breathe every day, right? Like obviously, right? But I love the fact that you shared that you did try something else and it didn't work. And I think that's
Mhm.
okay because sometimes people will try things and like, oh, I do check-ins with my clients all, every weekend. Sometimes I just feel like a failure. And I'm like, you're not a failure for trying something. And honestly, seeing where the gap is, seeing where the struggle is a win, right? Like if we can't identify where we're struggling, how are we going to fix it? um I was actually just listening to this. I'd have to pull up the actual terminology, but there's these four levels, and one of the first level is like, you don't do it and you don't even know you need to do it. It's like this ignorance of, like, almost like blissful ignorance, like, well, I don't even know I'm supposed to walk, and so I'm not walking. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I know I should walk and I'm not walking. Then it's a, I know I should walk and I am walking. And then the last one is I know I should walk and I walk without even thinking of it. There's
Mhm.
terms for all of these, but it's the idea of, like, sometimes where we're struggling, it's like that first thing, it's like the awareness that we're struggling in it is really the first step toward getting progress. And so I love that you're like, hey, I tried this, it didn't work. I tried this, I still had to do it. I still had to push, I still had to plan, but I did it. Right. And
Mhm.
so that first attempt is not always the last attempt. And so I love that you shared that it doesn't have to be perfect. That's one of the things that we really try to emphasize in Fit Clubs. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but investing in ourselves will always pay off. Um, so, any final thoughts? Anything that you would love to share as far as, because I know you are, a mom, you are an employee, you're a great wife, you give back to your community, all the things that someone might look at you and go like, wow, she's got all of her stuff together. For someone who might feel like they don't, that they're struggling, because I know everyone's backstory, right? In Big Club, I know there are moms who are totally overwhelmed, who are totally in the weeds, women who want to walk and they don't walk, all the things. Like, any kind of advice or inspiration that you could give to just encourage, the ladies in our group, no matter where they are. I know that's a big ask, but
Yeah. I think it's to share your story. I think when you asked me to do this, I was like, yes, absolutely. And then when it came time to it, I was like, oh, I don't really want to talk about myself, because I don't think we don't, as a whole, as women, don't accept the compliments very well.
mm-hmm.
And we always have that, like, oh, thanks, it's just, but I think
It's
we need to,
just right. We say, oh, it's just from TJ
it's
Maxx.
just,
It's just, we just all these things. When no, it's not just. It's a big deal.
so I think share your story, find and um, circle yourself around someone who is like-minded, so you are willing to share that and share those struggles, and celebrate the triumphs when you have them, because you'd be surprised where they sort of come from, or who's watching you. And I think that's something that we hear often. And when we hear that there's someone who's watching you, I think
Mm-hmm.
it really surprises us that we've been being
Mm-hmm.
watched the whole time, and there's a silent cheerleader who's
Mm-hmm.
cheering. So it would be, um, don't be afraid to be vulnerable, and don't be
Hmm.
afraid to put yourself out there while you're trying to kind of share your story and finding your people. Um, Everyone knew that I was doing this. It got to that point where I was like, I have to go and walk. And especially I'm in school. So everyone would see me and I'd go and walk the gym when they wouldn't have it, just would coincide. And people be like, oh, you're getting your steps. I'm like, yes, I'm walking 43 miles this month, like random number, so people started to stop me and be like, how are you doing this month? How's it going?
Yeah.
And it was fun. Like people, I think, truly are invested in you.
Yeah.
Um,
And you're inspiring people without even knowing it, right? You didn't set out like I'm going to do this so that I can rally people around me. I'm going to inspire, and this call is going to inspire someone else to have, a goal. We don't start with that, but that is a big ripple effect, right? And it's the idea that you might, not you, but someone watching might feel like they're failing, and they're inspiring someone just by existing, just by managing a house with,
mhm.
little kids, just by being a wife of a first responder with all the craziness that comes through, being a full-time teacher, like that story will inspire people, and you don't even know it. But one of the things I know, when you said like share your story, be vulnerable, I heard recently, it's, a lot of times we'll almost share the end of the story, like, hey, I walked 43 miles, I'm proud of myself, I did this, right? But the a lot of times the powerful part is the beginning and the middle. It's
Mhm.
the I'm scared to do this. I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to try. And it's the middle, like this is kind of hard, or this is actually fun, or sometimes I think we forget to share the whole thing because there's people who are in all the seasons of all those stories. And sometimes if we just share, someone might post like, "Hey, I lost 50 pounds," and someone be like, "That's awesome," but really the inspiration is the middle of that journey, or the beginning when they had only lost two and they're like, oh, I only lost 2 pounds, not knowing they're going to eventually be at 50. Right. So anyway, that came to my mind because I think, I love that term reminder that, we're not sharing out of vanity, or we're not sharing out of look at me's. We're not sharing out of like,
Mhm.
hey, I need to add a girl. You're sharing to inspire people. And I feel like the world needs more joy. It needs more inspiration. It needs more good examples of people who are doing the work and showing up for themselves and their families and their community. So I just appreciate you so much.
Oh, and it wasn't, I have to share, it wasn't always rosy by any means, so that you can hear just those closing kind of pieces.
Yeah.
And there were certainly days that I didn't want to do it and it wasn't fun. And I started taking yoga, and one day I broke my toe, like middle of it all, and was like, now what do I do? Like now I can't walk. But I took about 2 weeks off or so, and then I was like, now I gotta hustle.
Yeah,
So
seriously. And I love that because it's not always, my daughter did 75 hard, and she had, which again is outside walking. She had frostbite on her eyes from being out in the cold and like those things, but she was so close to the end. She's like, I'm not going to give up at this point. But
yeah,
it's not always puppy dogs and roses, but
no,
it
no.
does make such a huge difference. So I so appreciate you sharing. If anyone wants to connect with you, I will put your Instagram, your whatever contact information you want in the description of our video. But I just want to thank you for one, being a part of the community, for being an awesome human, for showing up and inspiring all the time, on Instagram and online, and in your own community and home as well. So
Well,
you're pretty
thank you.
awesome. So take
You're
that
pretty
compliment.
awesome too.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. I will talk to you all soon. Thanks so much for watching the call. Thanks so much, Sarah, for being here.
All right, bye. Thanks,
See
Beck.
you later.